Hello, we are Group 8, and today we will be presenting 4 different ethical dilemmas and situations that a project manager could encounter on the job. These are accountability, health and safety, conflicts of interest, and workplace culture. The case study I am presenting is in regards to the Challenger. The Challenger shuttle crew of 7 astronauts died tragically in the explosion of their spacecraft during the launch from the Kennedy Space Center on January 28, 1986. The explosion occurred 73 seconds into the flight as a result of a leak in one of 2 solid rocket boosters that ignited the main liquid fuel tank. The NASA Investigational Commission's report on the incident cited the cause of the disaster as a failure of an O-ring seal in the solid fuel rocket on the Space Shuttle Challenger's right side. The faulty design of the seal, coupled with the unusually cold weather at the launch date, let hot gases leak through the joint and allow fuels from the tank and booster to mix and ignite, causing the Space Shuttle Challenger to tear apart. The commission not only found fault with a failed sealant ring, but also with the officials at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, who allowed the shuttle launch to take place despite concerns voiced by NASA engineers regarding the safety of the launch. This case study pertains to the accountability of project managers. It is so vital to learn from and take accountability for mistakes such as these because at the least, money is lost and at the most, lives are lost. Mistakes are bound to occur. It is natural to want to avoid taking the blame for them. However, it is important to accept the consequences and hold yourself accountable for the ones that you are responsible for. It was natural for the managers at NASA to want to avoid the consequences of delaying the launch despite warnings from the engineers. They moved on without addressing and correcting the issue. However, ignoring the engineers and continuing as planned caused 7 people to lose their lives from a preventable mistake. Reputations are at risk for project managers when they fail to take accountability for their mistakes. Even if acknowledgement of the mistake would have cost additional time and money, the outcome of fixing a mistake with course correction is better than not correcting the mistake and the project failing.
So I'll be speaking about a health and safety concern dilemma in project management. The safety officer stopped the job after observing unsafe conditions, but the line supervisor ordered the job to continue, citing high priority. And the project manager agreed with the line supervisor's decision. There was one lost time injury during the job, and the management had already formed its opinion about the safety officer because the job belongs to one of their favorite customers, but later called for a full investigation. Whose job should be saved? Now, in this certain case, you can see 2 different points of views. So one is the project manager. Now, the project manager is in charge of the entire project. He has a duty towards the customers as well as his own employees. And this responsibility does bring along a lot of pressure to get the job done in time and within budget. Sometimes project managers can overlook the safety or the safety of their employees or their happiness during the project, but that is understandable because he has a lot of pressure on him from upper management. And on the other hand, you have the safety officer whose sole responsibility is to ensure the safety of all the employees during the course of the project. Now, he's a specialist in this job profile, and I believe that it is his responsibility to make sure that whatever he says is followed by the entire project, regardless of the project manager's view. Even if the project manager did not listen in the first meeting, he should have tried to reach to the upper management to ensure that none of the employees were in any danger. So in this scenario, I would definitely side with saving the project manager's job because he does have a lot of other things to look out for, and since the safety officer's sole responsibility was to ensure safety and he failed to do so, I believe the safety officer should be let go.
Hi, I would be speaking on conflict of interest. So my case is as follows. Emma is the project manager of a company that just published an RFP for constructing a new office building. Her brother-in-law, David, owns the construction company. The company bid on the project and ended up winning the bid. However, Emma didn't inform the company about their association, and also she didn't influence the decision in any way. And David ended up winning the bid. What should she have done? So she has 3 options here. Option A, she should have informed the project sponsor and the decision committee about her association and uh, and refrain from participating in the decision process. Second, she should assume that because of her name similarity, people would have prior knowledge of their association and no additional disclosure would be required. The third would be that she shouldn't have let her brother-in-law participate in the bidding process. So we can clearly see that A is the correct option here, because this is clearly a case of conflict of interest by association or affiliation. If you are on a decision-making committee and you don't tell about your association with the winning bidder, this is clearly a case of conflict of interest. And again, if that bid goes to her brother-in-law and the brother-in-law benefits from that position, it is a case of conflict of interest where she put her personal interest above the company. And even if, like in our case, she didn't influence the decision in any way, however, when others would discover that the winning bidder is her brother-in-law, they will assume that this is a conflict of interest. This could jeopardize the awarding of the bid and her own position as well. So, the correct thing would be to inform the project sponsor and the decision committee that the brother-in-law is related to her. Secondly, she should refrain from participating in the awarding committee so that she does not unduly influence the decision. And lastly, if her brother-in-law still wins the bid, she should appoint someone else in the organization to administrate the contract and make payments for the work performed by him. Also, she should make certain that all the decisions are documented and all the activities are recorded as well, because transparency is the key here. The more documentation she has, the less likely someone would accuse her of a conflict of interest situation.
I'll present about workplace culture. So workplace culture is particularly important with projects that include team members from multiple countries, as behavior that is acceptable in one culture may be viewed as harassing or even threatening in another culture. So let's look at this case study. Robert is executive director of an upcoming infotech company which is making name for itself in the market, and Mr. A, who is star performer, is heading the marketing team. In a short period of 1 year, he has helped in building the revenue as well as creating high brand equity for the company, so much so that you are thinking of promoting him. He comes from a cultural background that is different than his colleagues and his team members, especially the women who came from very different cultural backgrounds. So you have been receiving information from many corners about his attitude towards female colleagues, particularly his habit of touching though gently on their backs as a friendly gesture, or making unfiltered comments in coffee rooms, however without any ill intent. Though this is totally acceptable in A's culture, his other female colleagues find it offensive and uncomfortable. One day late in the evening, Mrs. X, who is one of Mr. A's team member, comes to you visibly disturbed. She complains against the continued perceived misconduct of Mr. A. She asks you, along with her two other female senior colleagues, to take strictest action against Mr. A and maybe fire him. They keep your boss in the loop and propose to fire Mr. A. So here you are in an ethical dilemma, if you should take side of Mr. A or not. So option A is taking side against Mr. A. So the points that are against Mr. A is familiarity with the company's code of conduct. Mr. A, as a project manager, should have been more familiar with the code of conduct of the company and should respect the cultural boundaries that are existing in the company, and there are expectations from the employees. Option B is to stand with Mr. A and look for another ways to handle this scenario without being harsh to Mr. A. But there is a chance that the person who is taking this decision would be branded as misogynist. So this is an ethical dilemma that a project manager could face in his tenure.